You notice everything, and that's exactly why you're tired. You walk into a room and you already know. Before anyone says a word, before anyone does anything, you feel the temperature of it. The tension sitting quietly in the corner, the way someone laughed a little too fast, the way someone else went slightly still. Nobody mentioned anything. Nobody had to. You already knew something was off. And you spent the rest of the evening wondering if it was your fault. This is your life. Not sometimes, all the time. You catch the pause before the answer. You hear what people don't say. You notice when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes, when a text is shorter than usual, when a room shifts energy the moment you walk in. You pick up signals that most people never even receive. And everyone around you seems completely fine, unbothered, light. Like the world is quiet for them, in a way it never quite is for you. You've been told you're too sensitive, too intense, that you think too much, that you need to just relax. But here's what nobody ever told you. You were never overthinking. You were just seeing more. You are not broken. You never were. What lives inside you isn't a flaw. It isn't anxiety pretending to be intelligence or insecurity wearing the mask of perception. It is something real, something that formed for a reason. Your brain learned, somewhere along the way, that paying close attention was important, that missing a signal could mean missing something that mattered, and so it sharpened itself. It tuned itself to frequencies most people can't even hear. That's not a malfunction. That's adaptation. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do, protect you. The behavior makes sense. The exhaustion makes sense. And once you understand why your mind works the way it does, something quietly shifts. Not everything, but something. The first thing to understand is that your brain processes more than it needs to. Most people walk into a room and absorb the broad strokes. A face, a voice, a general feeling. Your brain doesn't work that way. It takes in everything. The micro expressions, the body language, the slight change in someone's posture, the way a conversation pauses a half second too long. Psychologists call this heightened sensory processing, a state where the nervous system picks up and interprets far more environmental data than average. Think of it like this. Most people are listening to the melody. You are hearing the melody, the harmony, the key change, and the note that felt slightly off in the second verse. Simultaneously, without choosing to, this isn't imagination. This is your neurology, and it is genuinely exhausting in a way that is almost impossible to explain to someone who doesn't experience it. The second thing to understand is that your awareness didn't come from nowhere. It was learned. For many people with high awareness, the nervous system was trained early. Maybe the environment was unpredictable. Maybe the people around you were emotionally inconsistent, warm one moment, cold the next, and you couldn't always tell why. So your brain did what brains do. It started scanning. It started reading every available signal to predict what was coming next, because knowing felt safer than being caught off guard. This is the nervous system in protection mode. It isn't worry for the sake of worry. It is a system that once learned, if I pay attention closely enough, I can stay safe. If I see it coming, it won't hurt as much. That child who learned to read the room before entering it, that teenager who always knew when something was wrong before anyone said it out loud, that adult who can feel the energy of a conversation shift 3 sentences before it actually does, that's not a curse. That was once a survival skill. And this is where it gets interesting, because here's the part nobody talks about. High awareness isn't overthinking. It's pattern recognition. And there's a difference that changes everything. Overthinking loops. It spirals. It creates problems where none exist. But what you do is something quieter and more precise. You notice early. You read the arc of a situation before it reveals itself. You see patterns in behavior, in language, in energy that most people only recognize in hindsight. You don't imagine problems. You notice them forming. And sometimes you're wrong. but far more often than anyone gives you credit for. You're right. The issue isn't that your mind is creating things that aren't there. The issue is that your mind cannot turn itself off. It keeps noticing, even when you're tired, even when you desperately want to stop. The scan never fully pauses because the nervous system was never taught that it was safe to rest. There is also this: you don't just hear words. You feel what's behind them. Emotional sensitivity is the quieter dimension of high awareness. It means that when someone says, "I'm fine," you don't just hear the words, you absorb the weight behind them. You feel the distance in a voice. You sense when someone is performing okayness while something underneath is fraying. This makes you someone people feel deeply seen by, someone who notices without being told, someone who can hold space in a way that feels rare. But it also means you are carrying emotional data constantly. Other people's stress, unspoken grief, ambient tension, it doesn't just pass through you, it lands. You are the person other people leave feeling lighter, and you walk away a little heavier each time. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you were built to feel the full texture of what's in the room. You notice things most people ignore. But that means you carry things most people never feel. The exhaustion you live with isn't laziness, it isn't weakness, it's the cost of processing an enormous amount of sensory and emotional information every single day. Small things feel heavy, because for your nervous system, they are heavy. Silence isn't quiet for you, it's full. It has texture and implication and meaning that you cannot stop reading. You can't just relax the same way other people can, because relaxation, for you, requires a kind of internal permission your nervous system rarely gives. It requires feeling safe enough to turn down the volume, and that doesn't happen automatically. It has to be earned, slowly, in moments and environments that feel truly trustworthy. This awareness also changes across your life. It doesn't disappear, but it transforms. In adolescence, it feels like confusion, like being too much, like caring about things other people seem immune to. In your 20s, it often becomes the engine behind anxiety: too many signals, too many interpretations, not enough stability to make sense of it all. But something can shift in time. As the nervous system matures, as you begin to understand your own patterns, as you stop apologizing for the way you perceive the world, high awareness begins to feel less like a burden and more like a lens. One that is sharp in ways most people's lenses simply aren't. The skill was always there. What changes is your relationship to it. At its core, your awareness has always been about one thing: safety. Think of it as an anchor, something your mind drops into any new situation to get its bearings, to understand where the currents are, which way the tide is moving, whether it's okay to breathe here. Hyperawareness is the mind's way of creating predictability in an unpredictable world. It is your nervous system's equivalent of turning on the lights before walking into a dark room. It gives you control, or at least the feeling of it. And when so much of life feels uncertain, that feeling is not a small thing. It is everything. You were never too much. You were just aware in a world that rewards distraction. The world is very good at staying on the surface, at keeping things easy, light, uncomplicated. And there is nothing wrong with that. But it was never your natural home. Your mind lives a little deeper. It asks questions the surface doesn't answer. It feels things the surface doesn't reach. That is not a flaw in your design. It is your design. You were built this way to notice, to feel, to understand at a level most people never quite access. And yes, it comes with a cost. The tiredness is real. The weight of always knowing is real. The longing to just be someone who doesn't notice everything, even for one afternoon, that is real too. But so is this. The depth of your awareness is the same thing that makes you extraordinary to be known by. It's what makes people feel truly seen in your presence. It's what allows you to understand things about people, about situations, about yourself that others have to be told directly, slowly, sometimes never. The problem isn't that you feel too much. It's that most people feel too little. And somewhere, in a room you haven't walked into yet, someone is going to need exactly the kind of presence you carry. Someone is going to need to be seen the way you see people. Someone is going to need the depth that you have been quietly apologizing for your entire life. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not the problem. You are just awake in a world that learned to sleep.